Welcome back to Technology Simplified. Today, we're diving into a question that I hear all the time. What mistakes do you see business owners making most often when it comes to IT and cybersecurity? So, to help me answer this question, I brought in the perfect person. I'm joined today by Tina Forrest, who leads our cybersecurity efforts and works directly with business owners every day. Thanks for being here, Tina.
Always glad to be here. This is a topic I'm super passionate about, so let's get right into it.
Yes, for sure. So, what's the number one mistake that you see business owners make when it comes to cybersecurity?
Yeah, the most significant cybersecurity mistake that business owners make is underestimating that threat landscape and assuming they're just too small to be targeted. Cyber criminals frequently target small businesses because they often have less robust security measures and they're just seen as easier targets. There was a Verizon data breach investigations report that showed that 43% of all cyber attacks are targeted towards small businesses. So thinking that small business is just not at risk is a big misconception that can lead to pretty devastating consequences. The recent stats, matter of fact, on the average cost of a data breach for organizations with less than 500 employees is about $3.31 million. And unfortunately, most companies just only start taking security seriously after something bad happens. And the reality is that cybersecurity is just a moving target. You can't just set it and forget it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's so right. And I know that while you quoted the data, that we're seeing out there, I also have heard you share, many stories from your own personal experience, especially with those customers that did not take cybersecurity seriously, and then on the back end making comments to you of like, if you need me to talk to anybody and tell them, that they need to take this seriously. So I know you've seen it both, in terms of the macro data as well as in the individual experiences with the customers that you help, day in and day out.
Yeah,
And
and
I think that's
our
a pretty.
customers
Go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say our customers are really grateful when we're there in the face of an emergency. And so they've been really, really good about, testimonies of like, this happened to me and don't let your company be the next statistic.
Right, you're right. So it seems like a pretty, widespread mindset. I know I've talked to plenty of, customers out there that have that same sort of mindset. Why do you think that is? Why do people underestimate the risk, and those threats that are out there, and until unfortunately sometimes it's too late?
Yeah, and I think there's a few things at play here. One, it's like misplaced confidence, a lack of awareness and education mainly, and then resource constraints for a small business because it always comes down to the bottom line and what we've got available to us. And it's easier to believe that security through obscurity, or that they're not going to ever happen to us because we're not a big company. And that's the mentality that most of us fall into. But thinking that we're not connected digitally to all of our business partners and all of our associates, it's a big mistake. Because while you think that we're a small company, we have connections out there to so many thousands of other people. Recently, we had a business email compromise in our personal experience. And what happened is Company A sent IT Voice email with some bad malware in it, basically. And we called the company, said, hey, you've got a problem. We're going to get in. We're going to get it fixed for you. At the same time, another company, one of our customers, called us and said, hey, we just got this email from Company A with that same malicious attachment. And so we were working two incidents at the same time while also making sure that we were protected and we were safe. So that the way that the threat actors are going in now and just going through and finding more and more business associates, business contacts, and getting that malware out there, it just leads to a lot of attacks in a very short amount of time. And in this case, there were two of our customers affected within like 30 minutes. So we're definitely all connected that way. And I just, the other things I was thinking about was the training for everybody, and making sure that our people are trained in what to look for. That's like one of the things that we would want to make sure happens as well. 95% of all cyber attacks contain some kind of human element or misconfiguration, or they missed a phishing email and supplied credentials. So our people matter. And the other problem that we see is the resource constraint, which it all comes down to the bottom line. Do we have the right people? Do we have the right talent? And is there enough money to cover those preventative measures? And so that's where we fall into a lot of traps, I think.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, and I know we talk here, often about the human firewall, and making sure that the team of people that you have, they can make that choice to click or not to click, and that makes a huge difference in terms of the safety of a company from a cybersecurity perspective. So, one of the things that I hear sometimes people will say, something along the lines of, hey, I've got, a free antivirus program, or like, even I'm using, Office 365, or, a G Suite, and Microsoft and Google have enough protection, right? So, what's your response when you hear people that think like the free stuff I have is enough?
Right. And, you remember your mom and dad always telling you get what you pay for, right? And so while we don't ever want to say, okay, you spend all your money on this one tool, or if you spend a lot of money, you're protected. It's all about the strategy about how you do it. So we always think of strategy for cybersecurity in layers. So like if you were protecting your house or, your office building, that kind of thing, you want to restrict the access, make sure that the people coming in and out are who they say they are. And that's the same thing with cybersecurity. And so we just get multiple tools to do, to guard different kind of borders. And so EDR and endpoint detection is a big deal, making sure those computers that we're using are safe. The firewalls look after our whole network typically. They literally look for intrusion detection, and they look for the bad guys coming in, and they send alerts and reports. And so as an incident response team and as a cybersecurity team, we a lot of times will get multiple intellectual data from different systems, and then it's up to us to put, an analyst on it to say, okay, what's actually happening, and then provide that incident response in the case that somebody is getting unauthorized access. But yeah, it's all about the layers for those tools and being proactive.
Yeah. No, I definitely have heard, you and others speak often about the need for layers. And I heard somebody use the analogy the other day, like home security. It's like, hey, have a lock on your door, but maybe have an alarm system, maybe live in a gated community, maybe have some cameras, most of us don't have lasers, but I guess those are options that are out there and whatnot, that every layer that you add to that security just makes it, that much more difficult for somebody, to get in. So I know you said earlier that, there are many business owners that have said, hey, I'd love to be a testimony for you of like, hey, use these tools. But I know that many times business owners are concerned about the bottom line and the cost of cybersecurity. So, if you've been breached, you certainly understand what the cost on the other side is. But are the preventative tools and strategies, I mean, what do they cost, and is it worth it?
Yeah. And so a lot of times you'll have to think, okay, so there's all these strategies, all these tools that you can use, all the people that you need in place to make sure that we're using everything effectively too. And so it seems like it's a big cost. The really good news is over the last 10 or so years, as the cyber threats have changed, and we know that small businesses are targets, a lot of the companies that develop those tools have made them more accessible for us. So there are, volume discounts on things like that we can leverage for our tool systems that we use. And so the other thing I like to do is compare that to the cost of, okay, what if there's a breach? What if there's downtime? What if there's reputational damage to your business? What if you have to hire PR people to, get, the reputation back online, those kinds of things. And so you start stacking up all of those costs of an average breach against what it takes for a day-to-day preventative monthly kind of service. And it quickly is an overwhelming pay for the preventative stuff. then you don't have to worry about the cleanup on the back end. You don't have to worry about PR. You don't have to worry about reputational damage or downtime, because we all know what it's like to have 20 people sitting in a room working at your business and then 20 people that cannot do anything for the business making that revenue. And so the average cost of the breach I talked about for a small business was $3.31 million. The average cost of a global data breach in 2024 across all the businesses was about $4.88 million, and that was increased by 10% over 2023. So it's like a pandemic level for cyber attacks right now. And the other thing to consider is your business. Does it have some kind of regulatory authority that minds after it, that there would be regulatory fines that would have to be paid if there were a breach? So those costs come into play too. And if you look at the average cost of a healthcare breach, it's in the $9.77 million range, because there's a lot of teeth to the regulatory and legislative acts that help keep us cybersecurity safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it reminds me too of, like, we all pay for insurance for our businesses, right? Because something could happen, a building could burn down, or, there's some sort of accident or whatever that could occur. And so we know about those risks, and, you pay for insurance to protect against that potential. And so it's the same with, paying for cybersecurity. When you were talking, it made me kind of think of the dentist, which none of us, at least I've yet to meet a person that likes to go to the dentist. But it's a lot easier to go for those, regular cleanings to keep your mouth healthy, and to, the cost of toothpaste and whatnot, to brush your teeth on a regular basis, than if you have to get, a root canal or a bone graft or an implant or something along those lines that can get really expensive, and not even counting, the pain that's associated with it. So that was kind of the analogy that came to my mind just hearing you talk about it, that it is affordable, just like any other protection for a business is affordable, but it's not free. And so you do need to budget for it, and you do need to plan for it. But in the long run, that's a much better option than, waiting until all of a sudden you are in an emergency situation.
I was just going to say, or there's something catastrophic, and once you get to those costs and that downtime and, the stress of it all, it just makes a whole lot of sense to be proactive, just like we are with the dentist and with your doctors. And one thing on the cybersecurity insurance, I was talking to a customer the other day, and they were just, we were just talking about generally the risk. Like, we always insure against fire and flood. Well, a fire may happen once in somebody's lifetime, or twice maybe. Floods happen, I was around with the big flood of Nashville about 10 years ago or whatever, and that was like 100-year flood. But yet these cyber attacks happen so often, like every few seconds a cyber attack happens, and we don't insure against that. And so that's kind of the dichotomy of, oh, it'll never happen to me, but it does. And we have to plan for when, not if.
Yeah. And you shouldn't make the decision between, like, your general liability insurance and cyber. But I've heard some people argue that you might be in a better position protecting on the cyber front because it's more likely to happen, which is your point, than some of the more general, sort of things that people spend a good amount of money insuring against. Now, cybersecurity is obviously not static, and you and I have had a lot of conversation, and every time we talk, I'm always learning something new, and things are changing, and it's not standing still by any measure. So, what's your take on how businesses should think about the long game?
Yeah, well, we kind of take some direction from our cyber criminals on the other side of the playing field here. More and more, we're seeing where the cybersecurity criminals will gain access to a system, like, for example, email. They'll stay in there up to a year. They learn who all the people are, what they do, what access to data they have. There's been 2 recent business email compromises where the cyber criminal noted when the user would go on vacation. And then that's when they struck, because they knew that that person wouldn't be in their email as much, and they could do a lot of stuff without being noticed. And so that's when they struck. And so they're very vigilant and patient about how they plan and they strategize to make that strike to get what they want. And we should do the same. So we always need to be vigilant, stay on top of things, make sure we're monitoring, make sure we're proactive, and then, be patient, because it will be well worth it with the tools that we put in place and with the people that we put in place to handle the attacks. And then we have to change our tactics. Like, the security that we do today is definitely not what we did 10 years ago. I remember when just a password was good enough. And matter of fact, we all used the same password. It was called password. Then we had to use, a capital letter and a word. And so then everybody capitalized their password word. It's crazy like that. But now, we went towards MFA, and for a while that was good enough too. But we always have to change. Most of the recent business email compromise involved token theft, which means your MFA key that's only supposed to be private to you absolutely gets out there in the wild too. The cyber criminals can pick it up just from you opening a browser now. And that's all. And so we've got to be super careful about what that phishing is, that human element, like you were talking about, the human firewall. So overall, stay vigilant, and we need to change our tactics as much as they change theirs.
Yeah. And you're never done, right? It's always an ongoing, kind of reminds me of like the NFL or something like that. The offenses are always changing and coming up with new game plans, and the defense are always having to adapt. And then the offense says, well, that's not working anymore. We're going to try something new, right? So it's an ongoing game that we're always having to play to combat, whatever the new latest challenge may be. So, last question I have here for you is that, if you could encourage one mindset shift for, an average small business owner out there, what would it be?
Yeah, just one mind change would be, it's kind of difficult to not nail it down to one thing, but I guess it goes back to, don't think about if I get attacked, think about when. And so if you think about when and what's most likely to happen, you can set up all of your proactive tools and your people in place. You can have disaster recovery plans. You can have incident response plans. So everybody's trained in what to do and how to go to war or to go to battle pretty fast, which reduces the time of unauthorized access or, whatever the cyber criminal's up to. And so we can make plans and make sure we know what we're doing and follow those. It's like if you get a fire at your house, if you already have ways to escape those upper bedrooms and you've got the ladders there for the kids to just climb down, and then they practice that and they know what to do if this happens, there's less panic. Everybody just executes the plan, and it's a lot safer for all of us. So
no, that I think that's a really, really good advice for everybody. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and just making sure that you're ready. And if you are ready, then it can be, it won't be nothing, but it'll be, something that you can overcome, just like a good fire plan. If you know how to get out and your windows work and you got the ladder, then you get out and you can buy the stuff that you need to buy to get back going. And if you're not, then it could be catastrophic. So, appreciate the conversation today, Tina. Very insightful as always. I appreciate you taking the time to be here and join us on the show.
It's okay. I'm always happy to talk about cybersecurity. Well, thank you for having me.
So cybersecurity isn't optional, guys, and waiting until something goes wrong is just too big of a risk. So want you guys to take that all home with you. If this episode got you thinking or rethinking how you approach IT and security in your business, make sure to follow the show. We'll have many more that'll add to your repertoire of information. We'll keep unpacking all of those issues that matter most to you with the people who live and breathe this stuff every day, like Tina. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Technology Simplified.